Anyway, Jason, nice to see you, and
Nice to
welcome
see you, Jed.
to welcome to this question time. And I've got a few questions here for you, which I'll be very interested in the answer to. The first one is, how did you get into and discover biodynamic craniosacral therapy?
Well, I went out. I had a partner for about 2 years who was a cranial osteopath,
Hmm.
and it fascinated me. Um, the years she spent training, and then for the actual cranial itself, I only did like 40 hours training for the actual cranial, and I just was fascinated because I'd had a history of doing body therapies for many, many years. Which I just did part time. I was quite an avid sportsman when I was younger, or still am. So I was very interested in that whole dynamic of how the body worked and trying to get people back on the court and things like that. So the
Yeah.
cranial was quite fascinated me in its gentleness. And I've always been sorry, I was going to say I've always been a wee bit weird and wacky. So I quite like the idea of the concept of how it was. So after being made redundant for the second time, because I'm a chef by trade, I was head chef of an international hotel,
Hmm.
and I sort of ran a certain area of budgeting and procurement. So she suggested I carried on and did some more studies. So in my, I don't know, mid-30s, I think it was, I decided to restudy. Yeah, and it was very much the mechanical style. Yeah,
Okay.
to begin with. So that's how I got into it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that.
Mm.
Fascinating. Here's another question. What do you notice happens with your clients?
Um, well, I find this question quite fascinating because I pondered over that a lot because I don't know if I can do an actual direct answer because as my training, and the 30 odd years I've been doing this, it's changed um, very much. When I first started as a mechanical style, it was a hit and miss to what happened, and as I changed to more of a gentler style, a biodynamic style, a style of non-doing, a style of listening, the realization is the more embodied I became, and the more greater ability of knowledge I had to listen through my own system, and through just a knowledge of how, I suppose, innate knowledge of how life is and how the world is, and how we relate to internal and external environments. What happens to my client changes is changed. It's I've realized now, and I was talking last night to somebody who had an herniated disc at a party. You have the chats at parties, um, and it was really interesting how I said to him he'd been to see a therapist for over 2 months, and he's seen him 3 times a week, and he'd not made any difference. And honestly, I said to him, and I realized it came out of my mouth. I said, if you don't see a change of some kind within 2 or 3 sessions, then we will rediscuss about whether you come back or not. And I
Yes.
found that really surprising because it was almost like I expected a change in people, even if I don't know what the change is going to be, or physically,
Yeah.
or people start delve into a deeper reason why they've come to see me, because most of the people that come to see me are people who've been to see everybody else, sort of at the bottom of the line. So, I mean,
The last stop.
I'm just going to say, I had a client come in who's come in regularly. I actually haven't seen him for a few weeks. It must be better. Who came in originally with sore wrists. He'd had operations. He'd had this and that. In the end, he went through a whole life change through the sessions. And it wasn't until at the end, when he'd gone through all his working through his childhood and his relationship with his family, that now his wrists don't hurt. So I think that's the dynamic of just making people feel better, aches and pains, to a whole dynamic of life change. I think that's, but you still get, and I still get people coming in after 30 years with just little things that they want to work with. So yeah, it's always a surprise of what changes in people.
Yeah. And I suppose you were saying,
because I find the more expectations I have of what wants to change, the less expectation I have in what I want people to change, because then more deeper changes happen. Yeah. And it always surprises me. I can't believe after 30 years, it still surprises me what changes for people. Yeah.
Nice one, Jason. Well said. So here's the third question, Jason. What aspect of BCST most excites you?
What most excites me, I've got to be honest here, I like doing nothing. I had a career in restaurants, and one of the things I did was design kitchens, and I tried to design them so you had as little movement as possible. And I spent, oh golly, 15 odd years doing body work and really being physical. So
yeah,
I realized that I really liked spending 4 or 5 hours a day just in such a gentle, peaceful place, and I like the fact that it's brought me to treating from my garden. So I have a little shed in my garden. So what I like about it, I remember getting sent an email from somebody in the States who had this contraption that went inside the nose, and it was designed to pump, and supposedly it helped with ex-war veterans, and it expanded inside the skull. And if you understand in cranial, there's a certain movement within all tissues and within all plates of the head, and a relationship between all the different structures. And that's what changes in cranial, that relationship. But so I realized there and then that I didn't like the idea of forcing my will on people. Simple as that.
Nice one.
I like to just witness and acknowledge people for what happens, how they are. And the simple acknowledgement, it's a bit like a toddler. When they show you a toy that they're playing with, you don't tell them what the toy is. You don't tell them how to play it, but they just want you to go, here's the toy. You go, wow. And they go, they're so happy. And I think our bodies and how we are, that child in us wants to be heard. And the patterns and rhythms of our experiences in life just want to simply be heard and seen. I think that's what I really love about the connection within this work, and the fact that you don't have to be incredibly technical. You just have to have some form of deep knowledge that you trust that you've got. That's it.
Beautiful.